$5 to 10 grand for kidnapping of ICE agents or Customs and Border Patrol agents, non-lethal assault, $50,000 for the assassination of high-ranking officials. Whew. Here's Greg Bavino. He works in Chicago. Says he had a bounty on his head. Watch.
We've got $50,000 bounties on the heads of federal law enforcement officers. We have criminals ramming vehicles, criminals bringing guns to protests. This is not regular street crime here in Chicago. We have assaults on Border Patrol agents, ICE officers, and our allied law enforcement agencies every day, often multiple times per day. And again, these assaults, the lethality of these assaults is increasing.
How can your officers respond to that effectively?
Well, there's power in numbers. There's safety in numbers. Secretary Noem, ever since that terror attack we saw in Dallas, she's been hardening our ICE facilities. President Trump has called in the National Guard, a very prescient and great, strong leadership we've seen from the President of the United States. But, I mean, we are seeing a coordinated, highly organized waging of war on our law enforcement on the streets of Chicago. These men and women are simply enforcing the rule of law and doing their job, and yet there's these foreign terrorist networks who are going after them. They're using a tiered system of bounties to go after them, whether it be doxing their family members, kidnapping, even murdering these brave men and women.
Hey, welcome into Courageous Media. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. So we've got phenomenal news. It's ugly, but the cartels, the drug traffickers, the human traffickers, the cartels have started to issue bounties now against ICE officials, not just high-ranking ICE officials, but basically anybody. A tiered system. Dox an ICE agent gets so much money. Murder an ICE agent gets so much money. Assassinate a high-ranking ICE official. Ooh. Now you're talking $50,000. This is absolutely insane. And it is time for the gloves to come off. That's what I say. Let me know what you think. Really appreciate everybody rolling up in the comments. Lynn Sanger in the house. Really appreciate you being here. If everybody could, please smash that like button. Let me know that you're here in the comments. We'd love to hear from you and where you're from. But let's dive back in because we've got the ICE spokesman. She was on a different element of Fox News and was talking about this very thing, the fact that cartels are now not just doxing, but they are actually issuing bounties on ICE agents for their death. This is absolutely insane. So check this out.
Disturbing, Sandra. Homeland Security investigations, the FBI, our interagency intelligence partners are really all over this. What we're seeing, as you mentioned, is this tiered system, this coordinated and highly organized waging of war against our law enforcement and a terror campaign against them. We're seeing that they're offering $2,000 for intelligence about our ICE law enforcement agents surrounding, including their family, to dox them, $5,000 to kidnap an ICE law enforcement agent, and then even more money to kill them. And we've talked a lot about on this program and on other programs on this network about these ICE apps to locate ICE and CBP agents. And it's not just obstruction of justice that we've been seeing with that. We're also seeing this. They're now handing intelligence over to these cartels, these criminal rings, to go after our law enforcement, harass them, dox them, kidnap them, and God forbid, kill them, Sandra. It's very disturbing.
Yeah, here's part of this.
It's incredibly disturbing.
So you've got this going on. You've got the actual money people now. Things are getting very, very ugly in this whole situation. Trump has declared Antifa a foreign and domestic terror organization. They've started, evidently, the process, from what we understand from government sources, they've started the process of tracking the money all the way back to the donors and starting to unravel Antifa from the foundation. But Antifa is intertwined with the cartels, with the leftist organizations, with all the NGOs. The cartels are in bed with the NGOs who are getting billions of government laundered tax dollars in order to facilitate illegal immigration, which along with that came then other elements of human trafficking, drug trafficking, you name it. Well, Trump is starting to strike at the heart of all of this stuff now. And the cartels, because Trump basically declared the cartels a foreign terrorist organization, the cartels have started to come after, trying to come after Trump. They've tried to come after ICE. They're doing so, they're issuing bounties on ICE in the United States. And they're using their willing sycophants in the leftist protester group to facilitate this. And I believe it's time for the gloves to come off, both internally and externally. Now, check this out. This was something that happened basically over the last couple days, where ICE were again involved with protesters, with rioters, with insurrectionists who rammed their ICE vehicle and then tried to incite violence from that point. This is getting out of control. This is going to end up with people, ICE agents and potential rioters, insurrectionists, and potential innocent bystanders getting killed. That's why I say the gloves have to come off now, and this has to be squelched now. Check out this story from just a couple days ago.
Stopped physically. DHS says one of them, or both of them, I should say, are Venezuelan and in the U.S. illegally. One of them had an order for removal from 2024. A crowd formed up, and Chicago police say they started throwing rocks. So tear gas and other crowd control weaponry was used to disperse the people. Meantime, the fence surrounding the ICE facility here in Broadview, Illinois, is down. It came down with an hour to go before the court-ordered midnight deadline. The mayor of Broadview acknowledged that the protests here get out of control, so the area on the southwest side of the ICE facility has been declared a no protest zone, primarily to keep people from walking into traffic. The demonstrators are now restricted to a small zone here on the northeast side, and the protesters don't like it.
It seems like they're trying to push us out or trying to make it so the protest is less effective. I'm not the only one that feels this is unconstitutional. People are going to get more angry and they're going to come out.
Stop.
Unconstitutional? No, it is not unconstitutional for protesters to be forced into a certain area. What is entirely unconstitutional is for protesters / rioters / insurrectionists to impede U.S. federal agent activity, to impede ICE law enforcement activity, to ram their vehicles, to try to stop their vehicles by standing in front of them, to follow their vehicles around when in other vehicles, honking their horns, flashing their lights, yelling, "Here comes ICE." What is unconstitutional is to have apps that declare where ICE operations are taking place so that they can be impeded. This is what's going on. This is what's going on. And now this has been further exacerbated by the cartels and the funding organizations offering bounties, financial bounties for doxxing, kidnapping, or, God forbid, the killing of ICE and CBP officers. This is absolutely nuts. Really appreciate everybody. According to Democrats, the cartels are just in it for, yeah, exactly. The cartels are just trying to make a living. And yes, Lynn, this is in Chicago. Now, that's why I say it's time for the gloves to come off. First of all, the appellate circuit or the Supreme Court needs to step in and say, no. This ridiculous judge's ruling that says you can't put up fences around ICE facilities and that the National Guard cannot be deployed are over, done. The National Guard, if they're going to declare bounties on our ICE officials, they need to be surrounded by National Guard. And frankly, I think it's time for the gloves to come off. You cannot get within, at this point, you cannot get within 5 feet of an ICE agent. I mean, if you do, I think they should start not just pepper bullets and tear gas. Lethal force will have to start being used. If they are under threat of assassination or kidnapping from cartels, from foreign terrorist organizations, then they need to be able to use lethal force basically at the first sign of provocation. This is getting ridiculous. And I think it's time for the gloves to fully come off overseas. Now, this is an older video, but check this out from Jesse Waters. It's time for us to see this type of activity in spades. It's time for us to take the fight to them on their turf and absolutely annihilate these groups. Check this out.
Cartels are now officially in the Pentagon's crosshairs, and it's not just the wall anymore. Trump ordered the kill shot. The days of local drug busts and random motels, they were fun, but that's Breaking Bad stuff. Trump wants to take the fight to El Chapo's front yard.
We're talking about sending military forces to fight against the drug cartels in Latin America. Do you think it's worth sending our forces, our U.S. forces there to take this on?
Cartels where?
In Latin Central Latin America?
Well, Latin America's got a lot of cartels. They've got a lot of drugs flowing. So, you know, we want to protect our country. We have to protect our country. We haven't been doing it for 4 years. And we love this country like they love their countries. We have to protect our country.
We have to protect our country. And now we have to protect our ICE and CBP officers from potential assassination for financial gain from these very same cartels. So we have been bombing drug boats coming out of Venezuela. That is not enough. Based on this latest information of cartels issuing bounties on U.S. law enforcement agents domestically, I believe it's time for the gloves to fully come off, not just the occasional drug boat here and there. I think we need to have CIA pinpoint where these cartel production facilities are, where cartel leadership houses are, where cartel safe houses are, where cartel distribution points are. And I don't care what country they are in, we need to drone strike them all. We need to start with dozens of drone strikes a day. Take these people out, take the cartels out exactly where they stand. Kill them where they stand, all of them. This is getting ridiculous. They have declared war now on U.S. law enforcement personnel, which means they have declared war on the United States. Well, I think war is exactly what we should give them. All full von Clausewitz, war, total war. Let's hand it to the cartels. They wanted it. Now I think they should get it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Really appreciate everybody rolling up this morning as we deal with some crazy, crazy issues. But we got more stuff. We got some fun stuff too. We got really disturbing stuff about Dr. Fauci, Freudian slip there. And we've also got our next story, which is absolutely hilarious. And that is RFK Jr.'s wife absolutely owns The View. Why I guess they thought they were going to get themselves a little leftist sympathizer who was just going to kowtow. Oh no. Cheryl Hines went on The View and defended her husband. This is absolutely glorious. You've got to check this out. While I set this up, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know you're here in the comments. I really appreciate everybody rolling up. But let's check out Cheryl Hines as she appeared on The View. I don't think she's going to be invited back. Certainly not.
Spread a lot of misinformation, a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion, and I think it's just a very dangerous thing. I say it with the utmost respect.
Some of it's good and some of it's not. That's the point.
Listen, we all have different views here.
Yes.
And when you say, misinformation, disinformation, we could go back to COVID when...
He's connecting circumcision to autism.
May I finish?
Please.
When Fauci people were saying when you get the vaccine, you cannot transmit COVID. It will stop COVID. And that was disinformation, misinformation.
We were also still learning about it. It was a novel virus we've never encountered before.
Right.
Because now the doctors will acknowledge that
and Dr. Fauci has a medical degree.
At the time, they were censoring Bobby because Bobby said, where's the science to show us this? And there wasn't any. But people attacked him and said, you're wrong. So it's like, let's take a step back. I know that's your opinion, and that's okay.
Welcome back to Courageous Media. Yes. So we've got Cheryl Hines on The View. And like I said, I don't know why they invited her. I guess they figured they were going to get a different type of show. But, and this is why The View never invites conservatives or even moderates on their panel, because they get absolutely destroyed. They get shown to be the utterly partisan propagandist morons that they are. They are low IQ individuals on this show. It is absolutely amazing. Cheryl just dismantled them, one argument after another. It's absolutely awesome. So now we're going to dive in. We've got a segment where they start to talk about the fact that RFK is not qualified to be HHS secretary. Now realize that in all of this, Dr. Mengele / Fauci was not HHS secretary. He was director of NIAID and the National Institutes of Health and that sort of thing. The HHS secretary was a political appointee, and they're not going to want to hear that. So let's dive in, because they actually stop the tape. They basically say, no, we're going to break for commercial, hoping that they can get out of this. but it comes right back around. So you've got to see this. This is absolutely amazing stuff. Please let me know you're here in the comments. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Lynn Sanger, thank you so much for being here. All right. So check out this. It's a little bit longer clip, but we've got Cheryl once again defending her husband. This is great stuff. Against the cackling hens on The View.
When you say that they are pro a vaccine, it seems as though Bobby and Trump are casting doubt on the efficacy of the vaccine, which makes Americans very nervous.
Which the vaccine was not efficacious at all. The vaccine was a complete and utter fraud by the pharmaceutical companies. It was interesting in that first clip where they talked about, well, she literally said, hey, Fauci's the one who said, yeah, if you take the vaccine, you can't transmit COVID, you can't get COVID. It won't get serious. And all of that was a lie. It was an absolute fraudulent lie. And you got the cackling hens on the going, well, we didn't really know anything back then, making apologies for these absolute corrupt bureaucrats. It's absolutely amazing. All right, let's keep going.
So that's the problem that we're having.
Okay, I understand. Yeah. I understand that. And it's interesting because I don't know if you saw 60 Minutes just did a piece about the vaccine injury compensation program.
Yeah.
So people that have had vaccine injuries can be compensated if they can prove it. And they have paid out $5.4 billion for vaccine injuries. So my question is, can we do better? Is that all vaccines or just the COVID vaccine? It's all vaccines. It's all vaccines. As far as I know. As far as I know. Okay.
And that amount is probably low by a factor of 100. What should have been paid out? Remember that the vaccine injury compensation program, vaccine injury compensation, like it's VICAP is what they call it. But basically, the vaccine injury program was instituted by the federal government when they granted the pharmaceutical companies blanket immunity from lawsuit, from any type of liability for issues with vaccines. Before this, the pharmaceutical companies were liable for problems with vaccines, which means they tested them 3 ways from Sunday: in, out, sideways, up, down. They did clinical trials over and over again. And it took a long time to get a vaccine out. It was not a fast process. But those vaccines, when I was a kid, the 5 vaccines we were getting, nobody was getting autism. Nobody was having major vaccine issues. It was the rare person. But now that we've got the vaccine injury program, now that we've got fast, warp speed drug trials, now you've got vaccines that are absolutely causing problems. You've got drugs that are absolutely causing problems. Hence, we've got a 10,000% increase in the rate of autism, which RFK has been talking about. Things like Tylenol during pregnancy, all sorts of issues. But let's keep going.
But so the question is, yes to vaccines. Yes, they are important, and they are an important part of our healthcare. Can we do better? Can we make them safer? Can we make them, can we listen to parents who say, my child got the vaccine and changed and stopped hitting markers, stopped developing the way they were developing? Can we listen to people when they say that instead of saying, you're crazy?
I agree with that.
Oh, The View can't listen. No, they don't want to listen to anybody because they are beholden to the pharmaceutical companies, and they are all in with the leftist, we control you, every aspect of you. We will tell you what to do, what you can and can't do, authoritarian mantra of the socialist paradigm. That's exactly who these people are. It is absolutely egregious. Now, I love the fact that she owned them there. And this was not the clip I originally told you. Now we're going to get into the clip where they tried to lambaste her husband for not being qualified to be HHS secretary. And I love what Cheryl Hines said. And this is where they try, Whoopi Goldberg tries to break for commercial real fast, but it doesn't work because it comes right back around. So check this one out. This is absolutely awesome, because this is where Cheryl Hines really owns these knuckleheads, the cackling hens on The View. Here we go.
Your husband, when he announced basically that he
believed he found some causal links between autism and Tylenol. It created a lot of panic in women who were being told by their OBGYNs who look at them that Tylenol, if necessary to treat pain during pregnancy, is safe. What would you say, and I know you're not a medical professional, but to women who now feel anxious and nervous because their doctor's telling them one thing, but the top public health professional is telling them something very different?
Not a professional.
Well, they said consult your doctor before taking it. That's what they were saying, and that holds.
I guarantee you there's not a doctor running around saying, RFK is wrong. Here, take as much Tylenol as you want during pregnancy. I can tell you that's absolutely not the case because acetaminophen is limited in use even when you have things like surgery. If anybody's ever gotten surgery and they get prescribed pain medication like hydrocodone, which is codeine or some other pretty strong narcotic. It could be codeine, it could be oxy, it could be something else, morphine, coupled with acetaminophen, coupled with Tylenol, the base drug of Tylenol. And you are told you can only take, if it's 500 milligrams of acetaminophen in that the type of codone tablet, because the hydrocodone I had was 500 milligrams of acetaminophen, and I believe it was oxy after that. You could only take like 6 of them in a 24-hour period. Why? Not because you couldn't take too much oxy. No. Because you couldn't take too much acetaminophen. It would damage your heart. It would damage other things. It was acetaminophen that was the problem. Let's keep going.
So I agree. Listen, I've been pregnant. I understand. It's stressful being pregnant, I found, because you're so concerned with everything. I didn't drink caffeine when I was pregnant. So to say, hey, consult your doctor before you take this, I agree with that. And I think that's okay for moms to hear.
Cheryl?
Yeah, go ahead.
Now,
all right.
I am, this is not your fight, really, to be fighting. Yeah. This is your husband's fight.
Thank you for acknowledging that, but go ahead. But hear what we're talking about.
I do want to say, he's not a doctor, and he's not a professional.
Yes.
And oftentimes when he's speaking, he is speaking not with the best information that we can get because, we could do a lot better with how.
Not with the best information we can get. He sits atop of the HHS, you blithering moron. He has all of the information. He has every bit of the information at his fingertips. He can call, there's like 700,000 employees in HHS. He can call any one or a number of them and say, get me the data on X. Get me all of the data. Compile the data. Summarize the data. He's got more information by droves than you've ever had. This is nonsense
stuff. And there's a lot of stuff he can do. And some of the things he's suggested, take it out of the hands of my doctor and me and my OBGYN and me. And I wonder, does it give you pause and are you able to say, that might not actually be so, because I've got my experience and I've lived with this and I'm still here. So are you able to have those conversations with her?
I am able to have those conversations. And just to be clear, 90% of secretaries of HHS have not been doctors.
But they've had a science background.
There have been 3.
Yeah.
No, to be honest, one of Obama's secretaries of HHS was an economist.
But the majority of them that haven't had medical backgrounds have had a science background.
Wait, don't do anything else. Don't say anything else yet. Because we have to take a break.
Your husband.
Don't say anything else. We have to take a break because you're about to say something, Sonny Hostin, which is utterly stupid and imbecilic. You're about to show the fact that you are a low IQ moron. This is absolutely great. So, but they come back to it. Whoopi Goldberg tries to get her out. Now, I'm surprised they didn't do hey, we have to read a legal statement like they were doing back when they had to, every time they talked about Pete Hegseth or JD Vance, they basically got owned by their corporate overlords saying, you got to issue a legal statement or we're going to get sued. because they're spouting nonsense facts, and Cheryl Hines calls them out on it. I love it. It came right back around. And here we go, because Sonny Hostin jumps right back in, utterly, low IQ Sonny Hostin. Here we go.
Your husband is the least qualified Department of Health and Human Services head that we've had in history.
I do not.
I think that's a very dangerous.
Why is he less qualified than an economist?
I think
How is
that
that
he
possible?
is less qualified.
He has spent his career studying toxins, studying people's health, fighting for one guy who was using Roundup for his job.
He has also spread a lot of misinformation, a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion, and I think it's just a very dangerous.
In other words, I don't like what he says, so he's not qualified. Wrong, you ridiculous woman. First of all, let's look back at previous HHS secretaries. Biden's HHS secretary was nothing more than a political appointee and a lawyer. Obama's HHS secretary was an economist. None of them had any medical background whatsoever. In fact, because of all of his work suing large corporations, especially pharmaceutical and food corporations, over toxic effects and medical implications, I would say RFK is the most qualified HHS secretary we've had in dozens of years. But Sonny Hostin doesn't know that, because Sonny Hostin, again, is a low IQ propagandist who doesn't know what she's talking about. HHS secretaries have not been doctors. Only 3 of them in history that I know of have been doctors. And so most HHS secretaries they're all political appointees by definition, but almost all of them are either economists or lawyers, or they're nobodies. RFK Jr. has at least worked in this field. He has seen the effects of corporate corruption on our health for decades. Give him that. And I love the fact that Cheryl Hines just absolutely owned her. Oh, he's less qualified than an economist. Wookie Goldberg tried to get her out of it, and Sonny Hostin just jumped right back into the deep end of the pool, showing how dumb she is. So, hey, really appreciate everybody rolling up. I love it when people own The View, because The View are just low IQ cackling hens. Now, I've got one more story. It's somewhat related, because it's about Dr. Mengele / Fauci. So let's dive in, because there has been new bombshell information that has been released on Fauci's relationship with the CIA. And this gets darker, because it's all related to COVID. It's all related to the cover-up. It's all related to the gain of function. And we're going to take this back a little bit. We're going to introduce some information that this goes all the way back, not COVID, but this idea of gain of function and Fauci's corruption goes all the way back to the 80s. Let's dive right in. Check this out. Really appreciate, again, everybody rolling up. Please smash that like button for me.
Fox News alert. New evidence has just surfaced tying Dr. Anthony Fauci to the CIA's cover-up of COVID-19. Last week, a whistleblower claimed the CIA was paying people off to bury the lab leak theory. And now this, from the House committee investigating the pandemic origins. Quote, Dr. Fauci was escorted into Central Intelligence Agency, CIA headquarters, without a record of entry, and participated in the analysis to influence the agency's review. The committee is now ordering HHS to hand over documents detailing all of Fauci's movements during the pandemic in and out of CIA-controlled sites.
So we've got Dr. Fauci being invited clandestinely into CIA headquarters, where they essentially collude on how do we script the narrative so that people don't find out that the COVID the COVID virus was created in a lab in Wuhan, that it was done illegally by funneling US taxpayer money to a military bioweapons lab in China under the direction of the of the CCP, of the Chinese Communist Party, which is our primary enemy in the world. So how is it? So he had to try to cover his tracks, because he did not want the public to know Dr. Fauci, that he was involved in illegally funneling money to the CCP, to our enemy, to create a bioweapon at their military lab, which was then unleashed, not just on the United States, but on the world, resulting in untold economic tragedy, in actual deaths. This thing is going to blow up. And we've got to figure out a way to get around this pardon, because Dr. Fauci, not doctor, I mean, the man, Fauci needs to face criminal accountability for his actions. Even if they have to drag him in front of an international court for all of the international deaths that happen, I would be all for that. He must face accountability for his actions. Now, this leads us into some historical clips. First, we've got Senator Paul basically holding Fauci's feet to the fire, and you can see his anxiety when he talks about the fact that everybody knows about this gain of function research, when he was lying to Congress about it. He lied to the president, he lied to Congress, he lied to the public. Oh, we never authorized gain of function research. That is an abject, perjurous lie. Now check this out. Oops, sorry about that.
What we're alleging is that gain-of-function research was going on in that lab, and NIH funded it.
That is
you can't
not.
Get away from it. It meets your definition, and you are obfuscating the truth.
I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one. I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one. I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one.
We now know that yes, U.S. taxpayer money was directed, that gain-of-function research was done at the lab. That's how they came up with that's how the COVID virus was created. It was gain-of-function research on bird flu. It was funded by money from NIH and NAID, funneled by Fauci illegally into the hands of the Chinese Communist Party, into this military bioweapons lab in China. And it is blowing up into a major story. We've got now that we know that the CIA was involved in this, that it was an actual cover-up, that there's broader corruption, let's dive back in, because we've got Tulsi Gabbard talking about this previously. And then we're going to get into how this goes back all the way to the 70s and 80s. Check this out.
Dr. Fauci demanded that we place blind faith in him and the government. It was about control. It was about more money, huge amounts of money, our taxpayer dollars being put directly into the pockets of big pharma. Now we know Fauci has lied to Congress numerous times, including the lie that the National Institute of Health did not and does not perform or fund gain-of-function research. This is a serious one, and it's a crime that Democrats have imprisoned Republicans for, lying under oath before Congress. We also know now that Fauci's team has been exposed through hearings yesterday and today. They worked behind the scenes to cover up the origins of the COVID outbreak. Fauci knew about it. He was CC'd on those emails, and he allowed it to happen and then lied to Congress about it.
We are working with Jay Bhattacharya, the new NIH director, as well as Secretary Kennedy, is looking at the gain-of-function research that in the case of the Wuhan lab, as well as many of these other biolabs around the world, was actually U.S. funded.
We already know that.
Exactly. It was U.S. funded, not just in China. Realize that there were biolabs in Ukraine. One of the things that, again, entangled us in this whole Ukraine nonsense is that we had U.S. funded bioweapons labs in Ukraine. That's the other thing that we found out.
EcoHealth Alliance was partnering with this Wuhan lab to do gain-of-function research.
That's right.
We just have never been able to have somebody say, it was that exact experiment that led to this COVID bug. But have we gotten there? What's the new thing that you're digging in on?
We are working on that with Jay Bhattacharya and look forward to being able to share that, hopefully very soon.
Okay.
That specific
link.
Correct, between the gain-of-function research and what we saw with COVID-19.
I mean, that would be extraordinary, because just so the audience knows, if that's true, if it was Peter Daszak's research with the Wuhan so-called bat lady, that caused this pandemic, then we did fund it. Then Anthony Fauci helped fund the pandemic.
The
He was
thing
in
that
charge of
he
fighting.
denied over and over and over to Senator Rand Paul's questioning.
That's right, under oath.
Under oath, exactly. So is it any wonder that he sought a preemptive pardon for anything during a certain period of time by President Biden before he left office?
He sought a preemptive pardon. He also went to the CIA. He also tried to bury this story with corrupt CIA officials. And this doesn't just start here, but Fauci's misdeeds. I call him Dr. Mengele because we're going to get into a story that some of you may have heard little bits of snippets, but I thought it was appropriate to bring it back up here. Now that we know that Fauci was in bed with the CIA trying to cover up the gain of function research that led to the COVID-19 pandemic that did kill thousands to hundred thousands to millions across the world. He needs to be held criminally accountable for that. And he needs to be held criminally accountable for things that he did almost 50 years ago. I think they should use the conspiracy statutes to wrap all of this up because this is egregious what he did. Check this out. This is absolutely nuts. So we're going to dive into, first we've got RFK talking about his gain of function research and how some of it gets linked back to HIV and AIDS. Check this out.
Also gave them one of his fundees, Ralph Barrick from the University of North Carolina, developed a technique called the seamless ligation technique, which is a technique for hiding the laboratory origins of a virus, of a manipulated virus. So that normally, if there's a virus manipulated, you can look at it. Researchers can look at it. They can look at the DNA sequences, and they can say this thing was created in a lab. But Ralph Barrick had developed a technique that he called the no-seum technique, and its technical name was seamless ligation, and it was a way of hiding evidence of human tampering. What is the public health rationale? If you were interested in public health, you would want to be doing the inverse of that. You would want to be pinning red flags.
Exactly. You would want everybody to know this is manipulated. This is man-made. This does not occur naturally. But they wanted to hide it because they wanted to hide their fingerprints because they got exposed on a previous gain of function corruption scandal, which never led to anybody getting criminally prosecuted, although it should have. And we'll get there in a minute.
All to it and say this was created by people.
That's what you would do if you're creating viruses for biological warfare.
Right, that's right. And that's another question is why would he give it to the Chinese? I mean, that was a military lab. It was run by the military.
Because he is a traitor, because he is a globalist. He does not care about the United States. Dr. Mengele Fauci does not care about the United States. He does not care about you. He doesn't care about life in general. He cares only about money and power. And basically, he wants to be in control of all of the world's health or lack thereof.
It's hard to even understand that. What would be the rationale for doing that?
I try not to look in other people's heads. I try, like in the Fauci book, I never look in and speculate about what his motives are. I just say this is what he did. But I do think that there's this, among a lot of the people who were doing that kind of research, the gain of function research, there are big career, economic, and professional incentives to break ground. Also,
they wanted to hide it because they got found out on the HIV side. Now, I want to play a video, but first I want to show this because I want to show this timeline. And I want you to see this timeline because this is absolutely, if you look at this, keep this in mind as we play the next video. 1950s HIV The HIV virus is a chimpanzee virus, and it was introduced. They were trying to use it for Hep B vaccines. In the 1960s, chimpanzees and New York heroin users cross-transfused with raw blood. So now you've got problems with chimpanzee antigens in these heroin users. In 72, the chimpanzee antigens were patented for hepatitis B vaccines. 73, the first AIDS outbreak among New York heroin users. 1974, 13,000 New York gay men are chosen, recruited, coerced to test these new vaccines. At that point, Merck patents for the mass chimpanzee antigen vaccine production begin. And then they start testing these 13,000 New York gay men, and HIV emerges in the cohort. Now you get the real HIV, the outbreak. Then you get the second outbreak, AIDS outbreak in gay men, but it was rapid AIDS in anybody that had been vaccinated. So now we see exactly what happened with the COVID vaccine, where the vaccinated actually got it faster, they got it harder, it was more virulent, it was more serious. And so you've got this problem with the vaccines actually amplifying this stuff. Then the FDA approves human blood, Heptavax, original vaccines, blame, and sent overseas. So, the original vaccines are the problem. We'll send them overseas. CDC labels it AIDS. The WHO warns of a virus in the original vaccines. HIV identified. It is a chimpanzee virus. So this goes back to what they were doing 10 plus years before. Dr. Fauci scientists claim HIV rates similar in vaccine as placebo in the New York trial, which was not true. CDC appears to report the same, clearing the original vaccine for sale in Africa. And then a couple of years later, you get AIDS erupting in Africa, linked to the vaccination, but blamed on sexual activity. Now think about that as we play this next video, which is RFK talking about this HIV situation, but talking about a much, much darker side of it, in which they actually forced illegal immigrant children to be the guinea pigs for this nonsense. Check this out.
Tony Fauci made sure that none of those kids had guardians, which is illegal. And then he hid what he was doing from the boards. He took foster homes in 6 states and he turned them over to the pharmaceutical industry. He made sure that the people who were running those foster homes did not even have medical training. Most of them were immigrants who came from the Dominican Republic. They knew nothing about medicine or responsibilities, and they were sickened when they realized slowly what they were involved in doing to these children, that they were torturing these children. And you know, there's videos of these children, an old BBC documentary that will make you cry. I promise you cannot look at these without weeping. One of these kids, a 12-year-old who's trying to protect.
So they were giving these kids, they were testing the HIV AIDS drugs on them, on these children, against their will, without their consent, without any parental consent, because these kids had no parents. This is Dr. Mengele. That's why I call him Dr. Mengele. Dr. Mengele Fauci.
8 years old, and he has a tube in his stomach. And he's telling them, I tried to fight them, and this is what they do if you fight them. You can't fight them. You need to just take the drugs. And the kids didn't want to take them because the drugs were making them horribly sick. And Celia Farber, who's this amazing researcher who worked on this chapter for me and did a lot of the original research on it, she actually went up to Hawthorne, New York, to the Gates of Heaven Cemetery. She found the cemetery where Fauci was disposing of the corpses of these children who died in his illegal experiments. She found an open pit. It was actually covered by an astroturf carpet. She opened the astroturf carpet and she saw hundreds and hundreds of tiny little coffins stacked haphazardly upon each other, because these are children who have no parents and nobody was there to protect them. And Tony Fauci treated them as collateral damage. And, his objective was to enlarge the markets for these pharmaceutical companies who he had partnered with. by allowing HIV, these toxic chemotherapy drugs to be given to children. And then the next experiments, which are in the next chapter, which are equally horrendous, is his experiments on Africans. Tony Fauci.
So he started with illegal experiments on children in New York, and then he moved on to experiments on Africans. He killed all those children in New York and then literally killed millions upon millions in Africa with HIV and these ridiculous HIV chemotherapy drugs, which were extremely expensive. And part of the scam was that when they introduced HIV into the African population with different vaccines, once they got HIV, then they said, look, we have the drugs that can treat it. Oh, but those drugs are really expensive. So they started basically getting African nations to sign over raw material deals in order to fund these chemotherapy drugs to treat HIV/AIDS, which were nothing more than just toxic chemical cocktails. This is who Dr. Fauci is, and this is why Dr. Fauci needs to be held criminally liable for all of these actions. And it is why it is so important. The original clip that we played, why we even reopened this story, is because now we have breaking news from Tulsi Gabbard and others that Fauci was in bed with with members of the CIA who tried to help him cover up the gain of function research at the Wuhan lab and the lab leak, and the fact that this virus was man-made, created in a lab with US taxpayer money, illegally funneled to the CCP by Dr. Fauci, by Dr. Mengele Fauci. And he needs to be held criminally responsible. Scott W., you're absolutely right. This man is abject evil, 100%. So, hey, really appreciate everybody rolling up. Thanks for being here. Got a couple of heavy stories. And we had a funny one with Cheryl Hines absolutely destroying the view, the hapless cackling hens. Really appreciate everybody being here. Please smash that like button for me if you haven't already. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so and check those notifications. Turn on that, ring that bell so you'll know whenever we drop new content. Really appreciate everybody being here. If you like the content, please share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. Help us get back on top of the YouTube algorithm. Remember, God is good and he is sovereign. He sees all this. He is not fooled. He is not mocked. Accountability will come to these people at some point, whether in this life or the next. They will get their accountability. Make no mistake. God is not mocked. Thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate y'all. If you really want to support the channel and you feel inclined, please join us as a member of the Courageous Army on YouTube. Remember, God is good and he is sovereign. Until I catch you next time.